Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of Established to Run's NBA Injury Report Show. I'll be your host today, Mark Dankenbring, filling in for Drew Dinkmeyer. Dank filling in for Dink here as Drew prepares for his wedding, and a few of us on the NBA team are going to be picking up some of his responsibilities. So I'll be your host on the Injury Show Thursdays moving forward, and then when Dink's gone, a few more days. But happy to be here and alongside Mike Gallagher, the injury goat. How you doing today, Gallagher?
Doing good, man. Yeah, excited for Thursdays. Always nice to get a little mix. Dink and I have been running along here, but Dink is the projections guru. I always just enjoy watching you work the minutes like a madman when you're on for when the lock shifts. But yeah, man, this should be fun to mix it up. But let's get to it.
Awesome. Yeah. Fun to be back on the NBA side with NFL winding down. So definitely more attention focused here. And let's start tonight with Philly at Indiana. On the 76ers side, we have Tobias Harris questionable. He's only missed one game this season. In that game, we saw Marcus Morris draw the start, and Marcus Morris is listed probable on the injury report, but notes came out today that he is actually feeling pain in his foot, that he's listed with plantar fasciitis. So it kind of feels like a fake probable tag. Who do we believe here, Gallagher? Do we believe the probable tag or that Marcus Morris is questionable, more questionable and potentially won't play tonight?
Yeah, we're gonna consider him questionable. The Sixers are shady. They know what's going on here. We always say the 76ers Twitter feed right at 30 minutes before will tweet out the starting lineup, and they know. They just withhold this information, and Marcus Morris may have outed them here. So that's pretty dirty. Maybe they suspend him for conduct detrimental to the team. But yeah, we're gonna have him projected in. But he might. I'm expecting him to miss. I mean, why would he lie about that? Plantar fasciitis is no joke. So I think he misses. Tobias Harris also missed shoot around. So those are really two of your top candidates to start this game. Which then asks you, again going down the line, who starts, right? You got
Yeah.
Maxey, Ray, you got Batum, you got Embiid. I think Daniel House is next. He's been, a pretty big piece. They'll ask him to. You're kind of going to shift Oubre's role a little bit, which he's been really adaptable. So I would expect House to start this game. Again, and projections are going to say that we have everybody in, but just know that those guys are kind of closer to doubtful than probable in Morris's case. So yeah, it could be a pretty tight rotation. We know obviously the matchup's really good. It is not a back-to-back either, and we'll see how Embiid responds. And didn't get really much from Nurse. He just talked about Embiid's insane 70-point, which actually we should mention. The pod that Dink and I did is up. It's a lot of Wolves stuff, so that was something I always talk about. But yeah, after this, you can go hop on over there and check it out.
Awesome. Yeah. Pumped to listen to that. And on the Sixers side, we did see Daniel House play like a, majority of minutes off the bench. I think he got up to like 28, 29 off the bench a few games ago. And then KJ Martin played a bit more minutes than him last game. But tonight we have Patrick Beverley back for the Sixers. So he should take up a decent role off the bench. The last game that Tobias missed, Joel Embiid also missed, and DeAnthony Melton was out in that game, and Pat Bev got up to like 31 minutes off the bench. So if Marcus Morris is out and obviously DeAnthony Melton is still out for the Sixers, we could see a pretty elevated role for Beverley off the bench as well, which is interesting in this, pace-up matchup. We always love matchups against the Pacers. And then on the Pacers side, we have
Actually, one more
Jalen
thing
Smith.
I want to mention with I just want to note Jaden Springer, because we had that one game where they were really shorthanded and we gave Springer a bunch of minutes and he missed. And then the next time they list him with this the ankle thing that's been bothering him. So what kind of minutes does he get? That's going to be important to know, which we're going to have no information on this. We know the Sixers won't tell us. So we're going to kind of put, if like everyone's short, we'll probably run Springer pretty light just because we're a little concerned with shadiness and just a cap on him that they're not going to tell us.
Yeah, a few moving parts here, and luckily this is the first game of the night, so we should know, but always some funny business on the table with the Sixers. Yeah. On the Pacers side, Jalen Smith is questionable right now. Tyrese Halliburton out, and then they have their usual G League questionable tags here as well. Jalen Smith listed questionable with back spasms, which are, notoriously tough to predict. Any insight here on Jalen, if he'll be ready to go, if it's going to kind of be he'll warm up and see how it feels, and potentially, we'll know before game time.
Yeah, this guy must have the most toughest pregame workout because this is twice now this month. He has been late scratched-ish because of his back flaring up during warmups. Not good. So I kind of think he might miss this one just to get him right. I mean, if you're hurting your back multiple times in warmups, you're clearly not right. So I won't be surprised if the team holds him out. Isaiah Jackson subbed in first in the last game, and then they kind of went away from him a little bit smaller lineups as well. And then we saw this new starting lineup, which I would expect to continue with Buddy Hield in the first unit with Nembhard until they get Halliburton back, that is, and still 2 more additional games till we get Halliburton back. You also note 27 for Nembhard, 21 for McConnell, so no overlap there. That's pretty much been a trend. We saw pretty much all of their overlap was when they were both second unit guys. When they are starting for Halliburton, they don't really overlap them. So but when they're kind of starting, they're not starting together or second unit together. So yeah, not expecting overlap. Neesmith minutes really strong. They went a little bit smaller. They're going to have to get all they can out of Miles Turner. We've seen Miles Turner play, when they need him. Look at this game, 37 against Joker. When they need him against a big center, he get up there. Foul risk is enormous, but there could be a lot of minutes going to Miles Turner here. And then everything else I think is pretty straightforward with, Obi Toppin filling in for mostly the non-Siakams and then some small ball stuff overall. And then Ben Mathurin was heading for big minutes in the first half, then got cut down a little bit as they went away from him there.
Yeah, and I like the Miles Turner note there because we've seen since the acquisition of Pascal Siakam, he's obviously been starting at the 4, which has shifted Jalen Smith back to the backup center role. So it does seem like Isaiah Jackson would be most likely to take Jalen's minutes if he were to miss, but it also could be just a big ceiling game for Miles as well. And obviously, playing against Embiid is always foul risk. Foul risk is heightened going against him. So kind of a high risk reward potential there going for Miles Turner tonight in this matchup. Anything else on the Indy side you want to hit?
Good to go.
Great. Okay. Next game we've got on deck is Utah at Washington. So pretty clean on the Utah side here. Just a few G League guys listed out. And then on the Washington side, we have Isaiah Livers.
Do you want to hit some notes on, if I can, really quick on Utah? Because they lost bad. They gave up 153. And Will Hardy said that they are going to regroup. Now that when we were doing this, Christmassy Jazz projections, we had a nightmare. We couldn't figure anything out. Who the hell are they going to start? We saw, they've been running this lineup out for a month now, basically. Do they go there? I don't know. I don't have much starters jersey intel. The only intel I have, it looked like Chris Dunn had a starters jersey on. So expecting the starting lineup to start. But if things go south here and they start losing games, we might be back in who the hell are the Jazz starting hell again. So, on red alert, you give up 153. It's going to drive a coach nuts. He didn't say they're going to switch anything, but he had a crazy quote. He said they just have to figure out and they have to, quote, act like a crazy person, which is not great. We don't like crazy coaches. We like consistent, known quantity coaches. So yeah, we're reaching. Oh my God, what are the Jazz going to do? We're getting close. We're not like full on freaking yet, but it could be there.
For sure. And against Washington, typically a get right spots. Maybe we see, one more edition of this starting lineup, which has been consistent for about a month now, which is, pretty crazy for the Jazz. So maybe a get right spot here against Washington. And if it doesn't go well, then, I think changes probably on the horizon for sure. So thanks for hitting on that. And then, on the Wizards side, we have Isaiah Livers listed questionable. He's yet to suit up for Washington since the trade from Detroit. Is there any reason to assume he'll be active tonight? If he is, do you expect to see rotation minutes? What do you expect out of Livers this Q tag?
No, they got a lot of bodies, and we were kind of curious if they would slide Kispert as more of a 2-3 to more of a straight 2 to kind of squeeze Livers in there, and they just haven't done it. They like Landry Shamet. They obviously like DeLon Wright, so they're going to kind of keep him until hopefully they trade DeLon Wright, Tyus Jones, maybe Kuzma. There's a lot of trade content coming out, and the Wizards, given their 7-36 record, just got rid of their coach. You would think that they're getting a lot of calls for some pieces, especially with Tyus and DeLon, A, having value at their position, and B, being on expiring contracts. So, back-to-back should be good to go. And then, on the pod, Denny just went off, and Cat got wrecked. Marvin Bagley went off. Cat got wrecked. Cat got torched last night. So you could listen to more of that on the pod that's on YouTube as well. Look at me plugging here. All the guys would be proud. So, but injuries should be good to go.
Sounds good. Yeah. And I do want to note here too, you mentioned the Washington coaching change. Wes Unseld has been transferred to it. It sounded like a more, overseeing role in the front office. And then the interim coach will be Brian Keefe, who's named interim coach for the rest of the season. And we kind of saw last night with Milwaukee, a little rotation change. Andre Jackson was out of the rotation under interim coach Joe Prunty. So I think with Washington, with the coaching change, we could see some experimentation here. You mentioned, trade some potential trades on the docket. So I think the next few games here, we should tread a little cautiously with Washington, just because, there could be some unforeseen changes coming there. Let's shift to South Beach, and one of the most exciting games of the night. We have Boston at Miami, and Boston, the injury report is pretty clean. We should expect everyone to be there. It's an island game for them. We saw, earlier this week they had a back-to-back and messed with minutes a little bit. So I think we should be okay leaning into their typical normal rotation tonight. Any notes on Boston?
Yeah, no, just pretty tight rotation. National TV game, not a back-to-back. So, we should be ready to go here. Certainly, they're going to want to beat Miami pretty good. Miami in a rut. We'll get to them in a second. But yeah, we were, I am known in our Slack channel as Minutes Tibbs for wanting to boost guys. And, Minutes Tibbs kind of won out here. There's a lot of heavy minutes in this game against Dallas. So, yeah, I kind of think that's the same. There is some garbage risk. Miami does not care about expectations and spreads, as we found out last night as the Grizzlies stomped them. Again, get to them in a second. But yeah, should expect, pretty consistent rotation, pretty heavy minutes if the game's close. Peyton Pritchard had been, pretty locked into a big role. They needed him more in a guard heavier kind of matchup, so it kind of worked in his favor. But yeah, we're kind of looking at a 8-man with little sprinkles behind that. But yeah, expecting pretty strong situation I'm sure they want some revenge.
Yeah, sounds good. On the Miami side, we have Jaime Jaquez still listed out, and I am rocking the Juan Wick shirt. Drew sent me a Juan Wick shirt for my guy Jaime Jaquez,
Man.
so rocking that today in his honor. He's still listed out, unfortunately, which has helped condense the rotation there in Miami. Or added in Haywood Highsmith, who's active, and then Kevin Love is questionable tonight. He left at halftime yesterday with a stomach. He's listed today with a stomach illness. So obviously these illness Q tags are always tough to diagnose ahead of time. Did you get any insight from the Spoelstra presser on Kevin Love's status, and if you expect him to play tonight, or what how that could impact the Heat rotation?
No, yeah, out of nowhere. Wasn't listed with an illness yesterday, so we talked about Philly. Miami's usually over the top. This was a little odd that they didn't list him at all, but yeah, kind of expecting him to miss, I guess, and that would get it was a little bit surprised that they didn't go to Jovic. So I'm very curious to see what they do with him. There was commentary from Spoelstra, I want to say about 2 weeks ago, saying that, if they don't, because we've seen him start here since the trade, do they just send him back to Sioux Falls? I think that's kind of on the table. But yeah, the other thing too is, Terry Rozier didn't start, still got minutes though, with 29, didn't play great offensively. And that was really a common theme. They were terrible in this game. I mean, you only score 96 points against, this Memphis team, which is kind of running hot. They've had 2 pretty good defensive games against the Raptors. But I think you got to expect, and, I wasn't really expecting a lot of Richardson minutes. So I think Rozier starts this one. Spoelstra talked a lot about the chemistry between Tyler Hero and Rozier needing to develop. So start him, right? Like, you get a little revenge narrative too. But yeah, everything else is kind of straightforward. Haywood Highsmith should be fine. Listed with that foot sprain, minutes were generally unaffected. Maybe they go to Caleb. We know Caleb was awesome in the Boston series. So, uncertain. But given how poorly they played last night, I wouldn't be surprised if things shift. But Spoelstra's been a big into continuity there. But yeah, I think I would. Yeah. So I'm expecting Rozier, Hero, Jimmy Butler, still leaning Highsmith here, especially since they need the wing defense. But it could be different. And then, Bam obviously starting at the 5.
Yeah, pretty tight rotation last night. And if you remove Kevin Love, you said if they don't play Jovic, then it is going to be a relatively tight 8-man here. We did see Thomas Bryant get in for some backup center minutes, and maybe we see that again if Boston goes to Cornet. Just size matchup wise for Bryant a little bit better there, but it definitely could see a tight rotation here with. You mentioned national TV game at home against the Celtics, coming off an embarrassing loss. I mean, 96 points against the Grizzlies is embarrassing in their current state. So I would expect a bounce back from Miami tonight and potentially some really tight minutes. And as a working Rozier, it is a little uncertain. So probably a decent situation to lean into there.
And actually, one more guy to hit who was affected. It was Duncan Robinson. And I talk about this a lot. There's so much push and pull when Hero's minutes get up there. it's tough to squeeze Duncan in there. Here, Spo hates playing them together, and now that you don't have to, just because if you're playing Kyle Lowry, who doesn't consistently get to 30, there's just not as many minutes for him. So I think Duncan Robinson, as we kind of mentioned with the pod and previously, he's a pretty big loser here. So I think his minutes kind of get cut down.
Yep, sounds good. All right, let's move on to another exciting East Coast game, which Drew will be in attendance at. It is the Nuggets at the Knicks in the Garden. Relatively stagnant injury report here for the Nuggets. Still some guys listed out there. Julian Strother remains out. Reggie Jackson is listed probable, but he's listed with a left toe sprain. And typically when you see sprains or strains on the report, that can be potentially tricky, even though he's listed as probable. Are you worried at all about Reggie Jackson's status here, or what are your thoughts on him and the Nuggets rotation at the Garden?
No, he's had a few P tags and been playing through them, so I think he's kind of good to go. Would basically disregard that. They've been pretty, truthful with their P tags. And we had that like weird mass Q tag when it was travel related thing, but generally we kind of know what we're getting with Denver's injury report. And yeah, just I talked about this on the show. It was just star-studded balling from Jamal Murray and Jokic, and they're just so good. Curious to see how Tibbs handles it. Jokic triple-double after the game. Mike Malone mentioned that he was Katie Wingy mentioned that Jokic has a triple-double against every team except the Wizards. So, wink, wink on February 22nd when the Nuggets play the Wizards there. He said he'll play him 48 minutes for you bettors out there. Just mark that one off. But I think we're kind of straightforward. Excited for Dink to go this one to see his boyfriend. Little polygamous Dink, getting married now. He gets to go date Jokic in person.
He got the fresh haircut for Jokic, not for the wedding.
Yeah.
So that's what we have to remember. And this is another game I think could play pretty tight. It's an island game for both teams. We've seen the Nuggets play pretty tight rotations, and obviously the Knicks have as well under Tibbs and post OG Anunoby trades. So this is another game where the minutes could be condensed, the usage could be condensed around a lot of guys. On the Knicks side, we've seen Jalen Brunson score 30 plus points in 5 straight games for the Knicks, and they are 10-2 since OG Anunoby has been acquired. Listed questionable there is Isaiah Hartenstein with this left Achilles tendinopathy, and as a result of the Tibbs pounding him into the ground night after night. What do you expect to see out of Hartenstein tonight? Is there any update on him? If you think he'll play, and the classic question with Tibbs is if he does play, if he does play, would you ever expect Hartenstein to be pulled back at all minutes wise to help manage this injury?
Yeah, I think so. This sounds like a thing that they're going to want to manage. But based on Tibbs' commentary, it sounds like he's kind of expecting him to miss here. Maybe he feels a little bit better. But I do think that, I think if with him, I haven't looked at minutes yet. I've been backed up from the pod. But this is, he's not going to play 40, right? Like I think his top end would be like maybe 37, and then the bottom end could be managed, right? Maybe it's 28, 29. Do they dare run a three-man split? They seem to have a little bit more confidence. Somewhat surprising. To see so many minutes. I got the wrong box score up. That's my bad. With Precious and with Jericho Sims. I think that's kind of the in situation. So let's talk about the out situation. Actually, I put this box score up on purpose because that's when Hartenstein was in. No, I'm totally kidding. But okay, so there was a pretty interesting comment. So most people wouldn't really. You got to really kind of hashtag no ball because the way that he was describing Jericho Sims and the way he was describing Precious Achiuwa and his post game was quite differently. He views Jericho Sims as like a rim protector. We talked a lot about this with like Chris Boucher when we were talking about him getting minutes. So Sims is a little bit more like that, where Precious is more of like a guy who likes to guard in the post, kind of more one-on-one-y, not as great in pick and roll. The pick and roll stuff's going to hurt him, but like Jokic in the post, you're not going to want to put Sims on him, I don't think. So I think that there's a chance that Precious could run him down a little bit. We saw Precious get some pretty valuable minutes down the stretch to help get him over the top. But I do expect, if no Hartenstein, I expect Sims to start. Tibbs said after the game that just because they've seen him in practice and they're more familiar with him, that they kind of trust him more in the first unit. So expecting Sims to start. But I think the minutes could come down. We were a little bit surprised. Like nobody played him in DFS because we just see Jericho Sims flop as a starter. So I think that the things could flip a little bit. Where I think they just maybe want to rely on Precious more for the matchup here. Then other than that, just Brunson Randall smashing and, Josh Hart had a really big impact off the bench. Expect that to continue. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Besides the center spot, and then we'll see if Hartenstein's in. But again, if he's out, I do expect Sims to start. I just don't expect this much of a minute ceiling out of him.
Yeah, Sims played the full first quarter last game and got up to about 18 first half minutes, played his third quarter stint of about 9 minutes, and then Precious played the final 15. So, we could see that first quarter be more of a 6 to 8 minute stint for Sims, depending on how things are going against Jokic. I would certainly expect Sims to start, as you mentioned, just with the continuity there. And Tibbs, typically likes to throw the same starters out there, but obviously going up against Jokic, not an easy matchup. So potentially more Precious tonight on the docket. But yeah, another exciting game, and man, the Knicks have been cruising. Should be a fun one. Wish I could watch this one. Wish this one was on national TV, but won't be able to catch it, unfortunately, with the brutal rules that Stan Kroenke has over the broadcasting rights here in Denver. It's brutal. But anyway, on to the next one, which is Minnesota and Brooklyn. And Minnesota's been, obviously in the news a lot after Cat's 60 burger and then subsequent roasting by Chris Finch of how immature the team was. Any notes on the Minnesota side? We have Mike Conley questionable there. He's listed with an illness, but I think you mentioned he's also dealing with a little bit of hamstring tightness or a strain. How about you, talk to us a little bit about Conley and what you're expecting from him tonight?
Yeah, sorry, my computer's running a little slow. So yeah, Conley illness. We saw him get ruled out. I think they kind of knew he wasn't going to play all day, and he got ruled out before the game. So can't really say much. The hamstring was just he was listed as with rest in the game where Cat had the meltdown. But yeah, so don't have a great read there. Obviously, if he's out, it's going to be Nickeil Alexander-Walker. But yeah, kind of straightforward. The hamstring thing, so yeah, I think I covered that. But yeah, don't really have much to add. Just they got to play well. And again, I'll point you to the podcast that covered the Wolves in depth. Really fun to break this team down. I love talking Wolves. We really kind of covered all the angles of that game, but I mentioned Denny killed them and all that. Talk more about that, but yeah, I think we're kind of covered on the Wolves.
Defensively, do you expect Jaden to pick up Mikal Bridges, or who do you think his assignment will be on? Okay,
yeah, I'd be pretty surprised if it wasn't him.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nets are relatively quiet. We got Cam Johnson listed available there, so don't have to worry about that at this point. The other out tags have been out for a while there, so no new changing parts. But last game we did see Spencer Dinwiddie's minutes crash to 18 and a half against the Knicks. He had a rough game. And then in our internal Slack, you mentioned that Jacques Vaughn might have the hottest seat remaining in the NBA among head coaches. So what do you expect out of the Nets here? Do you think we can expect some experimentation moving forward if Vaughn is on the hot seat, or, talk to us about the Nets here.
Yeah. So I've talked a lot about this for a while. There are only two players on this whole roster that I feel really good about hitting their minutes on every night. And that's Mikal Bridges and Nick Claxton. They need Nick Claxton in a big, big way. I got the wrong box up again. This computer is killing me here. But, so yeah, so the last matchup, and I was all over this. I talked about how the perimeter guys, Cam Thomas, Spencer Dinwiddie, Cam Johnson, who was hot, are at risk because they need to play Dennis Smith Jr. to guard Jalen Brunson, and they need to play Dorian Finney-Smith to guard Julius Randle, and that's exactly what happened. It turns out Spencer Dinwiddie was the coldest, the coldest to ever do it. That's a great name, but yeah. So that's kind of the case. I think that, and so it's a little bit different here, where I think Mikel's going to pick up Ant. So it's kind of weird that you're going to still need Dorian, but you don't need DSJ as much in this matchup, especially if Conley or Nah. You don't really need him as much. So I feel a little bit better about Spencer's minutes, Cam Thomas's minutes than I did on the last game. So that's pretty noteworthy. We'll talk more about that on the DFS show. But yeah, Vaughn's got to be in the hot seat, man. I mean, this team is blowing leads like crazy. Do you just rate, if they have a lead, just bet against them, money line, I guess. But yeah, expecting that mostly covers it. But yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah. I mean, and we've seen, they played a relatively bigger rotation against the Knicks there with Finney-Smith getting more minutes, and the Wolves, are a big team that other opposing defenses typically like to play bigger against as well. So I do think Finney-Smith has a decent, floor ceiling combo here just with the size on the Wolves side. So interesting game. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and should also mention too, Claxton's gonna have to play a ton, man. They can't go small,
Hmm.
and that's what we saw
Yeah.
that the last. That's why we were like, I was like, yo, Claxton, this we almost flag planted him. He's gonna have to play again. Again, they just don't have anybody on the roster that can handle. They don't trust Harry Giles, obviously. Daron Sharp should mention Daron Sharp's running and doing free throws and stuff, so he's kind of trending back, but he's obviously out tonight.
Sounds good. Let's take this to the West Coast. We have a big gap between game times tonight. That game starts at 7:30 Eastern time, and then the next game we'll talk about, Sacramento at Golden State, is 10 o'clock Eastern time. So a 2.5 hour gap here, going from East Coast to West Coast. We have the Warriors on a back-to-back, coming off their emotional win after their long layoff, after the tragic passing of their assistant coach, and they welcome the Kings into Golden State, which is obviously a rematch of last year's epic first round playoff series. On the Kings side, we have Sasha Vezenkov, who is out 1 to 2 weeks with a right ankle sprain. He wasn't a huge part of the rotation at this point, but was, getting between 8 and 14 minutes typically. So, anytime you remove double-digit minutes, that gets spread around a little bit. Do you think Sacramento will kind of, plop that onto one person specifically, or spread it out through the rotation? And what are you expecting from his absence here tonight?
Yeah, we actually had a lot of changes, but with the Sasha stuff, JaVale kind of got dusted off, had a pretty nice impact defensively, had some nice rim runs as well. So I think he's in there. The matchup's a little bit weird. Does get a revenge game against the Warriors here, but I think he's kind of got the upper hand. But don't feel just because the matchup's so different against the Warriors. Like most times, I'd feel really confident, and maybe they just go smaller because we saw last year in the matchup, especially late in the series, they loved Trey Lyles at center in the non-Sabonis minutes. So again, if it wasn't for the matchup, I'd feel way more confident that JaVale's picking up the non-Sabonis, but I'd have a little bit of hesitance because of the fact that it's a matchup. So that's one thing. The other thing, Davion's back. He
Yeah.
played well. He got the defensive player of the game. Again, the second unit was kind of key to getting this win against the Hawks. So keep an eye on that. We're going to kind of lead into it. If you win defensive player of the game, and I just talked about, you're going to need guard defense. So I think Davion's got the upper hand for minutes. And then last thing, again, I've been talking about this for a while, and I don't know if this is like a media-driven thing from the Kings reporters, but they were asked again about De'Aaron Fox and if he's okay personally and the injuries. And Fox had like 2 weeks where he wasn't doing media. So it's just a little odd that he's not playing well. We saw him come out guns blazing and hanging like 30 a night. And then now he's like really tricked down, comes off a pretty bad game last time in a matchup where you should crush. I mean, the guards just kill the Hawks. So just a little odd. I'm not sure what's going on, but I've talked about this like since Christmas, that just something about Fox doesn't quite seem right.
Yeah, I mean, it really seems like he's hampered. I've done King's
Mhm,
baselines check for us on the projection side,
mhm,
and his usage has really come down in terms of just the
mhm.
volume of shots he's taken, both from 2 and 3, and his free throw attempts have plummeted a lot. So really, just the aggressiveness has dropped off a cliff. And on the flip side, we've seen Sabonis pick up a much bigger role here as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, De'Aaron, it certainly seems like he's not healthy to me. I don't know exactly what's going on, but I'd be hesitant to really, play into him in fantasy unless his price dropped quite a bit. But yeah, a little tough road there for Fox. And, Davion Mitchell was basically DMPCD and then played 22
Yeah.
minutes. So I could certainly see the Kings going smaller here. You mentioned the matchup against the Warriors. I
Mhm.
think Malik Monk is an interesting piece. If they remove Vezenkov and just play smaller, that could be a couple more minutes going to Monk's way. And the Warriors defense has struggled pretty much all season. So I think Monk is interesting and could potentially pick up a few more minutes here tonight. On the Warriors side, they have yet to file on the 130 injury report. I guess it just clicked to 230, so maybe we get it, but probably not. I don't think we should expect any injury information here. Everyone made it through last night's game okay, and they had that long 8-day layoff, so I would not expect any rest here tonight. Do you see it the same way, or any concerns about the Warriors, maybe sitting Looney or Draymond or something, anything along those lines?
No, I think they should be good to go. Steve Kerr is really happy that the minutes were kept down, so they're certainly planning to play guys here. I was really shocked, and I said yesterday that I felt very good about. I got two things wrong yesterday that I was very confident about. I was very confident Terry Rozier was going to start. Miami, every time I have a Miami take that I feel strong about, just like don't even just like
Fade
like
it.
Mike, what are you doing? Stop getting the banana in the tailpipe every time. And then the other thing, I was very, very confident that Draymond Green was going to start, and he doesn't. I think they're going to go do it again. They're happy with his conditioning. He has a little bit of a cap on him, though. I think that's probably why they did this. So just based on Steve Kerr's commentary, he said that 23 is right in the quote unquote range of where they're trying to keep him. It is a back to back. So I guess I'm leaning Looney starts here, just based on, it sounds like, again, a range of a minutes limit is on Draymond. And again, I talk about this a lot with, shortening the game. We saw Isaiah Stewart do this. So I think they're going to bring him off the bench. Looney play his, Keith Bogans start the game, and that's pretty much it overall. So, that kind of covers the center position. As predicted, Trace Jackson Davis minutes got cut down, got a little bit garbage. So he's pretty cut down. Brandon Podziemski, we'll see. He had an illness tag. Usually sometimes get the Q tag again, but I expect him to play. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight, actually a few things. Kuminga, 11 of 11, paint monster, guarded DeJounte a decent bit. We finally saw a really good amount of overlap with Wiggins, Kuminga, and Draymond. I think Draymond's presence and switchability helps in a big, big way. We know Kerr was not playing Kuminga and Wiggins together. I think Draymond and his defensive ability and IQ could make this a strong defensive lineup. So Kuminga is kind of alive, my guy. So keeping an eye on that. I thought Wiggins had pretty good defense on DeJounte Murray. And then, Steph and Clay were Steph and Clay. So, yeah, they great win last night. Pretty emotional. The guys were kind of tearing up to start the game. Nice to see them get a nice, easy win. But, pretty cool to see. And, just a team win, right? You get Kuminga in there and all that. So it's great win for the Warriors. They needed it.
For sure. 11 of 11. You don't see that too often. So shout out Kuminga for that efficient performance. And I loved Steve Kerr's opening remarks there. And then they gave the ovation to Decky rather than the moment of silence, which I thought was cool. Always love celebrating people rather than kind of mourning the loss, I think is an interesting approach. And so cool to see them do that on such a big scale. So shout out the Warriors. Hopefully the rest of the season goes okay for them. Obviously just a tragic story there. So let's move on to the final game of the night, which is Bulls at the Lakers. The Bulls side has, a pretty full injury report, but not too much change necessarily. Zach LaVine is out there. Torrey Craig is out there. Other guys listed out are some G Leaguers, and then Lonzo Ball, obviously, who's not going to play this season. So on the Bulls side, relatively straightforward rotation here that we've seen lately. Patrick Williams is listed probable, but probably don't expect any funny business there. Any notes on the Bulls as they head to LA tonight?
Yeah, Paul's playing through this. He's going to get the pretty consistent tag. He has had the P tag and then downgraded to questionable for. So just keep that in mind. Again, expecting him to play, not a back-to-back. So should be good to go. But the headline here, besides, Kevin Duranting in this game and it's just a Suns aside. 4 straight games they've had a 40-point score. Book for 2, Kevin Durant for 2. Wow. The Suns are back. Shout out to those guys. But yeah, the other thing too besides that was look at these minutes. Kobe 41, DeMar 40, even 33 is a ton for Caruso. So much for the short stints. They're running him up there. Really nice shout out to us for a Caruso over, which is usually our anti-bet. We like the unders. But yeah, that just a tight Ayo basically starters minutes. I think that's going to continue here. As well. I don't think they're going to go that. We saw that double big Vooch Drummond thing against the Cavs, and they've kind of gone away from it. But yeah, the headline here is the guards could be really heavy. We love guards against the Lakers. So Kobe, my guy, could be in a pretty big spot. DeMar also, a hometown game as well. But yeah, it could be a really nice. I assume it's on the slate with a smaller slate, but yeah, tight minutes, somewhat vulnerable perimeter defense could be some fantasy goodness.
Yeah, and I mean that's an extremely tight rotation, almost playoff level minutes right there, going 6 deep, and then just tossing a few to the other 3 there. So and the Bulls blew looks like a 17-point halftime lead against the Suns, kind of cratered there in the third quarter. So I would imagine they come out and try and play a similar way tonight against the Lakers. And we've seen a little push and pull from Dosunmu, Caruso, and Patrick Williams as the primary defenders for the Bulls. It kind of at least 1 or 2 of those guys are going to be on the floor at all time for defensive purposes. On the Lakers side, it's relatively interesting because we typically could write off these Q tags on Anthony Davis and LeBron as fake, but we got some news out of, or some commentary out of the Lakers that they are going to look for spots to rest LeBron here as in his 21st season, just starting to grind down a little bit in January. Anthony Davis listed questionable with bilateral Achilles tendinopathy, and LeBron listed questionable with this ankle tendinopathy as well. Any insight on LeBron and AD and how we should treat that heading into the last game of the night?
Yeah, you laid it out there. When I write matchups and the Lakers are on the slate, I most of the time write fake Q on LeBron. Not anymore. They're trying to be careful of these minutes. They're playing a little bit better ball. Anthony Davis, different listing than he's been posted with. So this is kind of new stuff. There's certainly a chance they miss. So I don't really have a great feel for this one. But you think LeBron's in. Like, it seems like, just based on the phrasing, it's like, okay, find one here, find one there. Certainly back to backs, they'll find him one there. But I think he'll be back for this one. They did do my guy Lefko dirty by not playing LeBron in a non-back-to-back TNT game. But I digress. But let's talk about what we learned from the last game. And that's D'Angelo Russell's the headline. The guy's playing some of the best ball he's played as a Laker, like, either stint. Again, the connecting, the passing, the screening has been just magnificent. He's playing just really, really well, locked in the minutes. Expect those to continue even with LeBron in there. Austin Reeves had a pretty good game, but again, he's so secondarily used even when LeBron's out. So the roles really diminish. He's kind of been the guy he was before he became I'm him. Guy who fills in the gaps for your scoring. Taurean Prince plays starter minutes, expect that to continue. Rui would go back to the bench if LeBron's back there. That's kind of it. Anthony Davis will keep an eye on the minutes. Was kind of laboring at times in the last game, so I think that's kind of explaining it. And then the other thing was Christian Wood's minutes were really cut down. We were expecting to play a little bit more just because they need some more shot creation without LeBron. So he could go really down. Like, he could be DMPCD because they really like Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has 0 offensive game. I was talking to Sam on the hike. His defense is so good, but his offense is so bad there. But yeah, so the headlines here are, we don't know about the Lakers, expecting them in, and Christian Wood could go bye-bye. Cam Reddish also got dinged up again. Keep an eye on that, but it sounds like he's going to be in there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if any Christian Wood props get posted. Obviously, a little uncertain with the Q tags there, but I do think he could go, down to 0 here. And with the Lakers, when Darvin Ham was getting questioned about his starting lineup and everything, and he said, "Oh, they're going to go back to Vanderbilt starting." Obviously, he kind of hoodwinked us there a little bit, but they obviously like Jared Vanderbilt out there, so I certainly think he's well ahead of Wood in this spot. And yeah, you mentioned D'Lo. I mean, since he got inserted back in the starting lineup the last 6 games, he's averaging 27 points and 7 assists, shooting over 50% from 3, over 50% from the field, 94% from the line in 37 minutes. So, man, his role has been really good and about as inconsistent of a player as you can find in the NBA. So, but I mean, ride it while it's going well, I guess. So shout out D'Lo. Hopefully he can keep it going. But yeah, anything else you want to hit on before we get out of here?
Yeah, just curious to see if 80's minutes hold up there. They were getting really, really hot, and getting that listing is concerning. And I'm very excited to hear you set up the promo stuff to close us out of here.
Well, we've been projecting Anthony Davis for like 38 minutes, which is just wild for me. As in my 4th NBA season, like Anthony Davis, we're always so hesitant to get high on him, and at 38 is wild. And he's listed with this Achilles tendinopathy, but it's bilateral, so both Achilles, and it's the same listing that Isaiah Hartenstein has, which I thought was just kind of an interesting parallel to two guys that are bigs and getting tons of minutes, and their Achilles are acting up on them. So yeah, something to watch there for sure. But yeah, that'll do it for this edition of the Established to Run NBA Injury Analysis Show. As always, we ask for your support in promoting this free content by liking this video. Please smash that like button below and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really does mean a lot to us at ETR to have your support, especially on this free content, so we can keep supplying it to you all. Feeding the algo does help feed our families and allows us to provide this type of insight for free on a daily basis. If you have interest in getting access to behind the paywall content, we have plenty of great stuff from Mike's matchups column, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, daily DFS analysis show at 5 p.m. Eastern time, top plays. We have leverage article from Gary as well. And then a player props package where we combine, all this injury analysis you get on a daily basis, along with our great work from the minutes team and our data science team. There are a ton of people that go into, making this the best NBA package on the market. So if you'd like to get behind the paywall with us, you can head to establish-to-run/subscribe NBA and find us there. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you again tomorrow. Hopefully we have the trio of Gallagher, Drew Dinkmeyer, and Justin Fan Friday. That is always one of my favorite shows of the week. So hopefully we get that, and appreciate everyone being here today. Hopefully see some of you guys behind the paywall tonight on the DFS show with Mike and Drew, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow.